am excited about what we have here. This is our very first episode of Be Wise. This is a ministry from Impact Family, and what we want to do here, we want to discuss money. We want to look at the things about money, and the question that we're asking here, in during this time, is God okay with us being rich? Is God okay with us being having money? And that is the question that we're going to be wrestling here in this time in this podcast. We're going to have some guests come on to share some perspectives that could help us to move our money forward. Ultimately, we want to look at the importance of how is it that we are called to manage our finances. Certainly, just honored and grateful for you to be here today. I am excited about this show. It is going to really speak to you. It's going to answer some questions that you have been asking. It's going to help you along the ways and understand how to best understand this. You all, the place I want to jump off is from my own personal story. Man, back in 2018, my family and I, we are working through our personal finances. My wife and I, we're working. And my wife, man, I bless her. I'm so honored to be married to this amazing woman. She had a perspective on our finances that I didn't have. She was raising the white flag. She was trying to sound the alarm to get my attention to say, hey, what we are doing right now is not working. And of course, what do I do? I dismiss what she says and I continue to press on because I think that eventually we'll figure it out. We'll get it. And then she keeps bringing this to our attention. And the reality was, as much as we were doing well spiritually, we were doing well in our marriage. We were going forward in our marriage, but there was still this one area that was hidden in our finances that it didn't really allow us to walk fully in the purpose of God for our lives. And so we kept it hidden. And that's just the way we had operated. And then one day I had to come to grips with where we were at financially. And I realized that we're not in a safe and secure place. More than anything, here's what got me. I was like, man, how can we go and we're shouting our heads off, giving God praise, giving God glory on Sunday mornings, and yet on Monday we're ducking and dodging certain phone calls from bill collectors. On Tuesday, when a mail comes in and it's saying that we're over past due on an amount, we're just kind of dismissing it, not walking in that. And I had to wrestle with that and understanding that and ask the question, how is it that on Sundays we're bragging about a God who sets us free, a God who owns everything that we see, a God who is greater and mightier than we may ever know, and a God who says that in every area of our lives that we have deliverance emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physical well-being, and even financially. How is it that if we're talking about this kind of God on Sunday, that on Monday his people are experiencing this? More specifically, I was experiencing that. And so then I realized that there's some incongruencies there with the God that I worship on Sunday and with the way I'm behaving with money on the next day. It just did not line up. And I begin to realize that there's a way in which we're called to manage our finances that brings honor to God. And I begin to understand that these conversations that we need to have in the church around finances, it needs to be not just to bring your tithe, not to just to bring your offering, while that act of generosity, that act of giving and commitment is in line with who God is. But I also realize that there's something that God wants to do with us here in terms of how we manage that also brings glory to God. And in some ways, it's our act of worship, right? Our act of being incongruent and our act of being congruent with what God is doing. First thing I wanna share is this, that there are definitely some dangers around money. The Bible lets us know that it's the love of money that's the root of evil. The money itself is not evil, but it's the love of it. And you begin to think about, well, why is it saying the love of it? The love of it begins to show what's in our heart, right? That because as love is flowing in and through us, and it's coming from the place of heart, and if our heart is purposed specifically for that money, specifically for that thing, that the money. That's where the problem is, and we've known and we've seen it, and we might have done it ourselves if we be honest, where our heart was bent towards the money and not on God, right? Where we had made some decisions that was influenced by the finances. I know you all may have heard this before, and I've certainly heard it, that everyone has their number. Everyone has a number. And that connotation is that everyone has a number that they're willing to do. Everyone is willing to do something for the sake of money, and that's what it suggests. And we find that kind of understanding, it doesn't align with who we want to be as believers. And so we find that it's the love of money that really God speaks towards and God speaks out against. I've been doing some research on this to really find out and to hear some of the thoughts behind this thing, and asking this question: is God okay with us being rich? Is God okay with us being money? We first find out the thing about money here. It has a couple of danger. The danger is the desire to get rich, right? That's where, for me, I have to say that it resonated with me, and maybe part of the reason why I was a little bit slow at getting my finances in order in part is because I did not want the end goal for me to be just about getting money or for me to just get rich. I didn't want to get to the place of richness, right? Or financial success and do it without my family, do it without friends. I didn't want to get there and more importantly, do it outside of God, outside of knowing who God is. I didn't want to do it so then I could just be like, yeah, look at all my efforts, look at what I've done. And so this desire to get rich is one of the problems and the dangers that we run into, right? The love of money itself. So what we begin to understand is that one of the dangers in money is where the desire to get rich is first and foremost. The second danger that we have in money is when we begin to worry about it. Um, God doesn't call us to worry about anything, particularly as it relates to money. So God's position is that we don't need to worry about anything. That's what God says throughout the Gospel of Matthew. Do not worry for anything, for God already knows what we need, even long before we have placed it before Him. But then when we start to worry and we find that our worry is surrounded around surrounded around money, that becomes a problem. That's when we're operating outside of the will of God, outside of who God's called us to be as good stewards. There's some more dangers in my research that I have found. I found the danger in, and some of us may understand, is the danger of trusting in God and in our wealth, the danger in trusting in our wealth more than we trust God, that our money can get us in and out of anything that we want. There's some people, based on their net worth, based on the money they have, they figure that they're better than other people. That has given them validation for who they are, and they interact with people based on the number of zeros that are in their bank account. I also want to dispel this, that not all rich people are mean, right? That's a myth that we give, that all rich people are mean. In fact, in my personal experience, I have found that wealthier people, they are very generous in more ways than we can imagine. That not all of them are stingy or mean and looking to get over on somebody. Another danger that we have with money is using your money to oppress other people, right? When we begin to think about those things, that those dangers that come with money, we begin to operate from a different place to understand and to put money in its proper perspective in alignment with who God has called us to be. God has called us to be good stewards. We are supposed to steward the things that God's entrusted us with. First and foremost, we recognize if we're going to move away from having a dangerous idea of money and having one more that's rooted in biblical principles, that's rooted in the things of God. First and foremost, we know that all that we have, it comes of thee, O Lord. All that we have comes from the Lord, that God has entrusted us with those things. That's why I love in the book of Genesis, where you get the story of Cain and Abel, right? We see these two brothers, they're bringing different kinds of offerings and sacrifices. Abel brings the such kind of sacrifice that says, Lord, thank you for how you have given to me now, and thank you for how you're going to give to me later. That's what his sacrifice suggests, that he brought his very best offering to God in this present moment as a way of saying, thank you for now and thank you for later, because all that I have, it comes from you. And so that's the first basis that we begin to understand, that everything that we have, it comes from the Lord. And if we look back over our lives and we look back over the things that we have done and accomplished, we would have seen that there would have been many resources, many times in which God has gifted us with a large sum of money at some point or another. Large to you, large to me might be relative. To you, a large sum at one time can be something as little as $1,000. Somebody right now, if they had $1,000, they would feel like they are rich, right? And some other folk, if they had $100,000 for them at one time, they would feel like for them, that's a lot of money at one time. And some people, maybe $1 million at one time, that would seem like a lot of money. But I want you to know that all that we have, that it comes from God, and God has entrusted us with those resources. And there is an expectation for how we are to operate when we have these resources. Man, this really blew me away. This really shifted the perspective on the finances, when I realized that God is first and foremost entrusting this to us, and how we manage it showcases how much we really honor God. I'm reminded of examples of people throughout the Bible when God has gifted them with something. What God does is God desires that we add value to it. He entrusts it to us, so we are good steward. The word steward certainly is a biblical word that means manager. We're not the owner, and we understand that we are simply managing what God has given to us. Right? We are simply supposed to manage it. And one of the qualities of a good steward is adding value to what has been entrusted to them. I don't know. Let me see if this could help. If this could help you. You ever let somebody borrow a car, or someone has ever let you borrow their car, right? When they let you borrow their car, or you've let somebody borrow your car, how do you return the car, right? Do you just return the car the same way that they gave it to you, or are you making sure that the tank is full? Are you making sure that the car is cleaned up? Right? Are you making sure that there's nothing in the seats, that there's nothing inside? Right? To say, hey, I know you might have given it to me one way, but when I give it back to you, I'm going to give it to you way better than you give it to me. The person who's receiving what you have given to them better than the way they gave it to you, what are they now more inclined to do later on? Right? You get what I mean, right? They're more inclined to letting you borrow their car more often later on, because they realize that, hey, when I give this to you, you don't devalue it, you don't treat it as if it doesn't matter, but you take care of it better than I can take care of it. And family, and I begin to realize that as a good steward, God is calling for us to take care of those things, and to add value to those things, right? Add value to our finances, add value to the cars that we have, to the homes that we have. Here it is. Add values even to our own very own bodies. Our bodies are not even our own. Our body comes from, it's of God. It comes from God. God has entrusted that to us, and we're supposed to take care of it unto the glory and honor of God. So, steward, first and foremost, we find that we add value to the thing that has been entrusted to us. We recognize that everything that we have comes from God, and we add value to it. And I believe that as we add value to it, God will then allow room for more to come. God will allow room for us to handle more, to manage more, because we were faithful with the thing that He gave to us. I begin to understand that an example of us really being able to take care of the things that God gives to us is beginning to, it has to multiply, and it has to stretch and spread and go further and go farther, that it could be a blessing to more people. And that perspective of understanding of money has shifted, radically shifted this thing for me. Now I am interested in engaging in and learning more about finances, more about money, and really just bringing this to you. For those of you that might be struggling with, hey, how am I supposed to understand money from a biblical perspective, from a Christian perspective? Well, I want to suggest to you that the first place we start with is understanding that we are good stewards with what God has given to us, that we are only managing, taking care of the things that God has given to us. All that we have, it comes from God, and we manage it, we take care of it. And how we take care of it is by adding value to it, right? We add value to it, we nurture it, we allow it to grow, we put it in places for it to grow, we allow it to grow so that way we can be generous with others. We don't put the money as the first thing, but rather it's the last thing, because first thing for us, our heart's desire is on the Lord. Our heart's desire is on God. And the money is not the object of our worship. It's not the object of our affection. It's none of that, right? It's the money. We begin to put it in its proper perspective as God has given to us. And the proper perspective for money, family, here's what I begin to understand: that it's for three things. It's made for us that we might be able to spend it. Yeah, that's true. We have it so we can spend it. That's how we're able to enjoy certain things, enjoy certain trips, enjoy certain material things like clothes and the car and the homes, right? So it's made for us to enjoy it and to spend it. It's also made for us to save it. Man, that's a small thing, but big thing. We're not supposed to spend every single cent that we have, but for us, good stewards, managing well, it is to be able to save, to live under our means and save for another day. And the last thing is that we might be able to be generous and to give. And those three principles, those three ways of managing money, I believe helps us to really manage it in such a way that it brings honor to God, in such a way to be that shows that we're a good steward. You all, I am excited about this trip. I'm excited about this journey that we're going to be on, this podcast, bringing you this content. We will feature guests that will bring and highlight some of the things that they have understood, how God speaks to us in money. These guests, they're going to highlight and share some of the perspective that will help us to understand how is it that we manage money. And here is our main goal. We want you to have the money. Don't let the money have you. That's what I want to let you know. You can have the money, but don't let the money have you. Yo, my name again is Vincent Ambeau. Thank you so much for joining us on Be Wise podcast, part of Impact Family Ministry. If you want some help on this, if you want to know more, reach out to us, impact.vision. Good to see you. Peace.